So there are basically four big goals that item response theory accomplishes. As researchers, these goals become really important, and I just wanted to talk through them, which after you're reading, you should start to see that these are some big themes in item response theory. So goal number one is really to understand how items work on a test. Was an item reliable? Did it measure or have the sensitivity to pick up on the trait that we thought we were examining or investigating? So goal number one is, how do items work on a test? So then the second goal is related to what I just mentioned in the previous slide, which is that we want to understand how much of a theoretical trait exists. So we want ability, we want density, and we want to know about the latent trait. We want to know how much of it is there. It's a scale or a weight that is standardized that lets us know how much of something exists. This is really important when you're doing, say, like a survey related to satisfaction. How satisfied are people with whatever product or service you're selling them? You want to have a standardized way to go about measuring that, to go about capturing that. And their satisfaction is the latent trait, and the density of that latent trait becomes of critical interest to you as a researcher. Because when you can quantify how much of a latent trait someone has, you can then start quantifying how much of a latent trait groups of people have, or how things are different for one group to the next. And that becomes important for, quantitative studies where you're looking at comparisons. That's one of the critical reasons why IRT measures are often used. So that goes along right to goal number three. You want to have an estimate of it. So you want to understand it. You want to know if that construct exists. You want to be able to name it. You want to be able to give it a dimension. And then after you've done that, you kind of want to know numerically how it stood up. So you're going to estimate how much of something a test taker has based on a response to a group of items. Now, the other goal of IRT is down there, and it's sample independence, and that's the fourth goal written on this slide. And this is really related to what I mentioned in the previous slide about classic test theory. Classic test theory actually doesn't have sample independence. It is completely dependent on the sample, how your items do, and how you scale people, and how you put them onto the estimate of the latent trait. Item response theory lets you measure a construct as opposed to a population. That's one of the critical differences of IRT. And that's a concept that's theoretical in nature, and I don't think we're going to have a lot of time to really get into what that means for this course. But I want you to keep in mind that when I talk about item response theory, I'm talking about measuring a person or a skill or an ability or a trait on simply their responses to a group of items, not on the population that they come from. So the population that they're from has absolutely no bearing on how they respond to those items and how they are scaled. That's item response theory's statistical gift to measurement work, is that we can make claims of sample independence in many cases, and that helps us know that our results are more reliable and more valid.